I'm just trying to listen to each other talk. Gus, you can call him and see if he's coming. I think it's more frustrating than the meeting where everybody's supposed to get their input for no reason. And just hear themselves talk. I see that it's not meeting off. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 1:32. I'm Mayor Todd Lands. Vice Mayor Gus Walter is not present at this time. We'll let everyone introduce themselves in the room.
Jason Ferguson, police.
David Kelly, city manager.
Susie Holmes, finance director.
John Camaro, president of POA.
Perfect. All right, public comments. Members of the public may comment on any matter not on this agenda. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Members of the public may comment on items not on the agenda when the subcommittee considers that item. To make a public comment, use the raise hand icon on your smart device or your desktop computer, or dial *9 if you're using just your telephone. So the first item up under consent is the approval of last meeting's minutes. Anybody that can make a motion to approve them? Or do we even have enough people that were here?
Mayor, we can approve the minutes without the chair. I'm happy to make the motion to approve if you support it.
Okay. Here, I'll second. And pass. All right. Sorry, lost my meeting. There we go. All right, current items for discussion. 4A is a presentation on PG&E investment grade audit results and options.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. This is a project that we've been working on now for almost going on 2 years, good year and a half with PG&E and their team, which we'll introduce shortly. The work has been performed is the result of or the presentation you can hear is going to be the result of what's called the investment grade audit that was conducted on the mechanical systems within city owned facilities. So that included City Hall, the police station, the corporation yard, the wastewater treatment plant, as well as city owned facilities, including the library and the senior center. The analysis is intended to address energy upgrades that would, in essence, pay for themselves over time through the energy savings. One of the key components of the project that we, during the process that we added, was to look at a meter replacement project, citywide meter replacement project, and also do the analysis to determine whether it would in turn pay for itself over time. The presentation today is the culmination of that work. It's going to highlight the results of the investment grade audit as well as some options. And really what we're seeking today is any feedback you have on the presentation. Our plan would be to bring this to council at their next meeting and also present this to get kind of final input from council, and then ultimately come back with a financing plan. But with that, I'd like to introduce, we've been coordinating with PG&E. The representative from PG&E is David Carter, and we've also been working closely with Brooklyn Stewart. So Brooklyn, David, I'm gonna go ahead and promote you here. Or Mike, City Clerk Mahoney, if you can promote Mr. Carter and Mr. Stewart, that'd be greatly appreciated, so they can go ahead and do a screen share.
Thank you. They should be promoted now.
Okay, Brooklyn, David, we see you on our screen. If you want to introduce yourselves, any background, and then you should be able to share a screen.
Certainly. This is David Carter. I'm with PG&E, responsible for our Sustainable Solutions Turnkey, which is the program under which we've been working with the city of Cloverdale to put this IGA together. And Brooklyn.
Yeah, hi, Brooklyn Stewart with Centrica. So we are the partners with PG&E that conducted the investment grade audit. So I'll be here for technical support as needed throughout this presentation. Thank you for having us.
I'll go ahead and share the screen. Well, I should be able to see that it's up, but let's try this. And can I get a head nod when you can see it, or a confirmation? Awesome.
It's visible. You can see it.
Perfect. So we started this process, and we've done it, as David said, this has been a multi-year, or is getting into a multi-year process. And we've done a number of different report outs on it. This is the latest. So we did what we would call a preliminary assessment. And then we've updated that with early IGA results. And this really is the culmination of all the measures from the investment grade audit. And our goal today is to discuss what the outcomes of that investigation was, as well as a couple of different options. And then at that point, open it up for some discussion. As I indicated, we are really now in that sort of post-IGA, and I'm sorry if I keep using the acronym, but the investment grade assessment, which is all of it basically defines the project with a turnkey price and scope of work. And so we're now really trying to share that with the city in order to move to the next step, which is really to get a project approval and procurement of funding for the project. Just as a reminder, some of the key objectives that we had in the project were to, upgrade the mechanical systems across the city. Many of them were at or near the end of their useful life, or really on their last legs. We also were investigating the library and the senior center, understanding that while that the energy work that would be done there wouldn't necessarily benefit the city from an economic perspective, but it has some other potential benefits, and we'll talk about those in a minute. Upgrade the lighting systems, really move everything to LED technology for more efficiency and longer lasting technology. Looking at solar installation to improve the green energy use and offset PG&E charges and reduce your energy costs. We also looked at some additional mixer technology at the wastewater treatment plant. And as David indicated, looking at the citywide upgrade of the water meters. In addition to sort of the work to be done, we all wanted to do this under the Government Code 4217 that allows for single sourcing a project for energy services, as long as it's budget neutral over the lifetime. We really wanted to help the city reduce the energy costs without sacrificing any sort of occupancy comfort or needs there. And then, with the wastewater side, it's really a combination of looking at how do we make sure that you're not losing revenue from water meters that aren't working, to being able to also collect water data in a more automated fashion. And then as part of that process, reaching out to the public to let them know about those changes, what's coming and how they're coming. So, this is really the collection of the various measures that were evaluated during the investment grade assessment. And I think the main one I didn't mention here is street lights. There's a handful of lights that you had that were city owned that can be replaced. And so let's talk about, let me stop here and ask, are there any questions about sort of the measures that were evaluated as part of this IGA?
No questions at this point, David.
All right, thank you. So we looked at 3 different options. That doesn't mean we can't continue to evaluate this, because I had a thought about this after I sent this to you guys. Option number 1 is, somebody say something?
No, go ahead, David.
Sorry. Option number one is sort of the full boat. You know, it's all the lighting. It's the full HVAC replacement at all of the facilities, including the public library and the senior center. It's the installation of the water meters and the infrastructure to bring that into the city. There's the solar project at the water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, as well as the Gridbee mixing system. It amounts to about an $8.8 million project. The energy savings from, the savings from energy and operations and maintenance expenses would be approximately $567,000 a year. You know, from a simple analytics perspective, the payback is a 15.5-year simple payback. So this is sort of the all-in project. We looked at a second option, which was to eliminate or reduce the HVAC replacement, taking out the public library and the senior center. You know, this makes a difference of a couple $100,000 and reduces the payback from 15.5 to 15.1 year. You know, given that these facilities, it's a little bit of a difference, but it's not huge. And given that these facilities, you know, probably provide some sort of community support, you know, it's an option, but it may be an option that the city would say we'd rather make sure those buildings are up to date and operating accordingly, because we may use them for, you know, community support, you know, during power outages or other emergency services or emergency needs. The third option was to reduce the HVAC and look at maybe having the city complete the aeration system. The staff there is certainly knowledgeable of the system. And so if we do that, then a project decreases to about 7.6 million. The energy savings do fall a little bit, but not enough in the way that you really get a shorter, simple payback from this perspective. Now, if you were to do that, then you're going to have to go through, you know, your own process to, you know, acquire the Gridbee system, which, you know, has components of time and procurement and what have you. So again, this is one of those options that, as we looked at it, may be beneficial to the city to pursue on their own. On the other hand, there are offsets to that about timing, costs, procurement process that may warrant, you know, keeping it in the broader system. The fourth option that I thought about that we didn't put in here was to remove the Gridbee system, but to put back the public library and senior center, which would probably push the simple payback to about 14.5 years. So those were the key options. Is there any questions on that?
No questions at this point, David.
Okay. So, you know, here's sort of the economics of the option one by measure. So you get a sense of what the energy savings are, what the O&M savings are of the various measures. And this is just really here to understand that, you know, there are projects that, you know, have very long paybacks, but they're being supported by measures that don't. And so that's one of the values of doing these blended comprehensive projects, is that you're really able to capitalize on all the savings to, you know, help drive the completion of a comprehensive set of measures. Excuse me. You know, so just as an example, we talk about sort of the library and the senior center. I mean, as you can see, because you're not getting any savings and putting a straight cost, it's just got a long payback. But the quicker payback on the water meters, the solar projects, what have you, support the ability to actually provide, you know, a more comprehensive, broader solution for Cloverdale. We did look at cash flow as well. And just to give you guys a sense that The project was the option one project is 8.8 million. There are some incentive dollars that could be applied to that I'll let David talk about if you have questions. And then here's sort of the savings. We make some assumptions about escalation rates and O&M services rates. That allows us to do, a more comprehensive cash flow analysis. So in this particular case, if we were to fund this project and using the escalators that were assumed here and an assumed interest rate, which we would still need to vet with the financier, and that's really one of the next steps we're looking to take. This project would pencil out to be approximately a 17-year funded product. And I know that's a lot of numbers on the board. It might take a little time to digest, but this is really just to give you the sense of, looking at the project over its full life. There are a couple of other things that, would need to be taken into consideration or looked at. There's software costs for your water metering solution. These are actually all reflected in the cash flow analysis. And then there are some other options that may be available to the city that, don't necessarily need to be resolved now, but we wanted to make sure that everything was on the table. And David, did you want to talk about, the ARPA funds and the grant dollars? I think this is pretty close to the last slide, and I don't know if there's some value in that.
Yeah, I think so. Just for the mayor's reference, the meter project is something that we applied for funding, to the DWR multi-benefit grant. And when Vanessa prepared and submitted that grant, it was to fund basically 50% of the cost. At the time, the best cost estimate that we had was 3.2 million to carry the project citywide. Since with the most recent update, the additional analysis, the inflation cost, the total meter project's about 4 million. And so we were kind of anticipating that, we get 1.6 from the grant, and then council has allocated just a little over $1 million to fund, a water project that we could put those ARPA monies towards the meter project, and then really finance the remainder portion under the finance program that we developed in working with David and a finance consultant. And the goal would be, to look at them more specifically, because what we're expecting is, one, the meters are going to be better at capturing water usage, and we'll be able to recoup the cost of that again over time. So that's kind of the philosophy with the water meter project. And one of the real beneficial aspects from my perspective is under the resolution adopted by council providing for the sole source bidding under government codes. We'll save quite a bit of money and not having to develop a full set of bids and specs, because that'd be hiring an engineer in and of itself just to prepare the plans, and then they have to put that out the process, put that out the bid. So council's already kind of supported that process, but I think it also saved us quite a bit of money and time, because we could really, I think what I've heard from council is, let's go get it done. And we've been doing it kind of piecemeal, like, neighborhood by neighborhood. And this project, the way it's set up, would really enable us to carry out the full project, coupled with the requisite training, the software upgrades, plus implement a program where residents will have actually access to their water use data. And some of the time that we've calculated in terms of the economic benefits would be reduced staff time from the reading meters. It usually takes us a meter reader almost a full week, if not longer, to conduct all the meter reads and be automatic. So, some of that time saved could be allocated to other duties. So, David, if you want to kind of take it from there and.
Sure. Great, thank you. So we just have a couple of other slides with some additional information on the water meter system. So, basically we'll provide the full infrastructure to under an advanced metering infrastructure, AMI. There's also AMR, which is a different, probably lesser alternative. So this is I think the best choice for Cloverdale. And it would really set up the ability to capture all the water usage, along with all the technology needed to do so. As David indicated, one of the nice things is that this can collect information regularly in such a way that it allows your citizens to be able to see their usage on a, I don't want to call it real time, but a fairly regular and consistent basis. And really some of the benefits of what we're trying to do. I mean, this is a project I know the city's been trying to do. This allows you to sort of make it all done in one big project rather than putting together over time. I'm not going to read all these. You guys can see what they are. And I think, many of them are obvious, but there's really some valuable data here in, giving the city more accurate and transparent information. It makes it easier in the long run to, work with your city members.
And David, let me add. I mean, one of the things I felt was a real benefit was these systems flag irregular water usage. So if someone gets a leak, it could flag to that customer or flag to the city. And that's something right now we don't have the ability to do. And folks come in and it's usually they've had a leak going on for several weeks and the charges that accrue from the lost water are significant. So I thought that was kind of an ancillary benefit to having.
Are these the same ones that the water treatment and our water plant has talked about wanting to use? Same meters, same everything, that like Darren or all of them?
Yes. Yeah. It's I mean, the turbo meters are really kind of the newest, latest technology. Is that fair to say, David?
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
these are your current,
So this project to me is a no-brainer. I mean, we've been talking about it for the whole time I've been on the council myself. I mean, and looking at the charts, I'm sitting looking at the chart, it's the one thing that I wouldn't complain about. You're kind of still on the 1 of 30 that I'm like,
Yeah.
do it, start yesterday.
Well, it's and the reason we spend more time on this one is
Go ahead.
it's a big investment.
It is, for
Yeah.
sure, absolutely.
And this one kind of came about as we were going through this process. We started with looking at our mechanical and our electrical systems, and I think David and Brooklyn brought it to our attention that they expanded the program to include meters, and so that's when we went down this path of really looking in more detail in terms of this specific project as part of this effort. So.
and that's really all I have to share with you guys today. Are there any questions or anything you guys would like to discuss?
So Mayor, we've laid out some options. Really the system or the program that the team has developed, we can eliminate, go through the list and eliminate projects if we feel like it doesn't make sense. The ones we've flagged include the library and the senior center, and that's only because while we own the buildings and we're responsible for the HVAC systems, we don't realize the savings from that would be generated by the replacement.
Right.
There's some pros and cons with that. I mean, one is by replacing it saves the partners. We obviously work with the senior center to save them money. That would be a good thing. It could be one of the things we show, but it doesn't necessarily result in a payback for us because it doesn't generate the savings. But with that said, we're also responsible if the HVAC fails for replacing it, and we went through this process, you know, we've been patching it, fixing it, and that's where the kind of the pro forma identified is our annual cost, because we're almost every summer, it seems like we're calling out someone to fix it. So, you know, if we replaced it, we would probably save some of that staff time, at least for a number of years. You know, since we're dealing with, we would have a new system now. There doesn't mean it's maintenance free, of course, but so that was kind of the thinking, is to, well, this is an option to present for your and the council's consideration. The other one is the grid-B system, and part of why, you know, there's a lot of cities that have moved towards using grid-B systems. And you know, I think there's still a lot of good reasons for it. But one of the reasons to eliminate it was, or to consider eliminating it, was it has a longer payback period. And there's a number of other elements to it that, you know, that are a cost burden, but, you know, so we have a new building to house the equipment for the blowers. So there's just some ancillary parts there.
But in 34 years.
Exactly. So those additional pieces to the project add to the payback period. So that's why we kind of looked at that one and said, well, that might be one. If we're going to eliminate something, we eliminate that one because of the long payback period. And again, you know, all these things are kind of a mix, so that you get down and you know, as the overall project, we're targeting kind of, you know, somewhere along was it you know, 17 to 14 years.
Was the grid-B part of our CIP? I can't remember.
I don't think the grid-B was. It's you know, the other aspect to it is that, you know, at some point we may be looking at modifying the wastewater treatment plant. We have to go to advanced treatment. Not to say you couldn't use grid-B to help, you know, or reuse the equipment in some fashion, but, you know, that would be something we'd have to look at, you know, at that time, whatever that new upgradation time would be. So again, we just wanted to present that as an option, because we felt like that was something for really council's consideration here. Let's see, I think as David indicated, kind of option 4 would be no grid-B, but add in HVAC systems. Again, the benefit being, because we could sole source it, get it done, we'd have those replacements done. I think we even have like a holding place in the budget, just in case we have an HVAC failure, we need to replace it anyways. So what we haven't talked about is kind of the specific financing plan. So there are certain things like the meters, we will be able to pay down with either our grant funds or our ARPA. So that kind of will help with the project financing plan. But again, we kind of want to nail down the option as best we can.
What's life expectancy on your ground mount installed PV?
Did you hear that question, Dave?
Yeah, the warranty on the modules is 25 years. That's the expected useful life that we typically you know, associate with doing a PV system.
Do you maintain a percentage of efficiency or anything during that 25 years? Like,
yeah, I mean, the modules themselves will have a efficiency rating. And Brooklyn, I don't know if you have that in front of you, but I mean, it's certainly something we can provide. Usually, you know, after the 25-year period, they're somewhere in the neighborhood of the low 80s, low 80%. But that's just, I'm giving you sort of some general information. You know, we can certainly give you the details on the panels.
And kind of the theory that we looked at, or something we looked at, was, you know, looking at PVs kind of on individual facilities. And I think after going through the exercise, we looked at this is kind of the best option is rather than PV on individual facilities, put it in the courtyard, offset our citywide electricity use, generate that savings on the bills. I think there's also, we looked at kind of from a technical perspective, the intertie with, we have the Tesla backup battery. Hopefully that would all work in a way that would you know, in the event of a power shut off, we'll get some solar backing up our batteries. I mean, that's kind of a technical component that we have to address, but that's part of the logic.
And then we maintain it, or does PG maintain it?
David, I think we would maintain it, right?
You would maintain it, and I think that's one of the in the sort of other considerations page, you know, something that we'd want to talk about is, you know, what does potential O&M look like? You know, typically you're going to want to have, you know, the modules washed at least once a year. And I think, you know, Brooklyn and Rob and I went through a fairly lengthy conversation about this, and I don't know, Brooklyn, you characterize it, I think, better than I can, as to why and what the options are and what the city should consider.
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple of things, and I guess to be upfront, it's an added cost, right? And we are perfectly happy with putting that together, but we want to make sure that our customers understand what goes into, you know, owning and operating the solar system. And first of all, you're thinking about monitoring, right? So somebody that's going to look at your, you know, a platform, a portal that shows that the system is operating. So that's something that is included in every O&M package is monitoring. Somebody that's going to look at that on a daily basis, log in, make sure that your system is working efficiently. You don't have any equipment that has failed, no inverters that have failed. And then secondly, as David mentioned, cleaning is usually something that is promoted. What we have seen is that the percentage of loss due to dirt, pollen, dust, you know, just particles in the air that land on the panels is very, very minimal. So should you wash it once a year or just let the rain wash it? Data would suggest that the rain is effective enough without having to have somebody come out or a team come out, prevailing wage, and cleaning those. But if that is an option, or you see over the first year that there is degradation related to that, then you know you hire somebody to come out and wash them. But really, it's the monitoring thing that's a big thing. You have the first year is a labor warranty, so provided by Centrica. So if there's any malfunctions with the installation electrically, we're going to fix that stuff at no cost to the city. So after that year, barring, you know, an act of nature or something that is going to damage the material, which is also covered under warranty. So all the material is covered under, you know, 25-year warranty for the panels, inverters for 10 years. So there really isn't a whole lot of cost that goes into maintaining that. You know, the risk is that, okay, nobody's paying attention to it. They're not monitoring it, and therefore don't know that they have an inverter that has failed. That is the biggest thing that we see a problem once it changes hands, is that nobody's watching it and they're not, you know, attuned to the fact that they're, you know, the system isn't operating at its capacity. So yeah, monitoring is pretty, obviously is pretty easy. But the other options for, you know, what we include in our cash flow is at 10 years, a replacement of the inverters. But again, those are costs that are going to go into, you know, that goes into the cash flow, whether you buy it now or you buy it, you know, in 10, 15 years when they actually fail. So I hope that clarifies a little bit what the operations and maintenance options are. Again, we provide both options if you'd like us to put together the full package that includes monitoring, cleaning, you know, and then maintenance when those things fail. Or I mean, generally our recommendation is to assign somebody that's going to look at the monitoring equipment once a week. And if something goes wrong, you either call us or a local electrician to come out and fix it. That's the most cost-effective way.
Thank you. Appreciate that. What this data, are we just looking for discussion and bring it to council soon? And
yeah, I think we're poised to bring this forward at the next council meeting on the 10th. get input, but if there was anything, you'd want us to make sure we add or, take away or, any points you want us to elaborate on, we'll plan, work with the team to, make any adjustments in this presentation.
The only comments I'm going to make are going to be prepared for answers for the paybacks in years, because the ends doesn't justify the means on a lot of these. And it would be hard for me to say yes to your upgrade lighting, your HVAC, all this, as much as I want to do it, and they'd be more efficient. When you're looking at 108 years for your payback, you bought 3 more systems in that amount of time. If we haven't bought a new building or 2 by then, things like that, that I can't justify spending the money if it's not broken and it's not going to be worth it.
Right, so like
To have answers for that in the presentations as to why we should be doing it. If you're going to sell it to us, be prepared for those questions. But
okay, Brooklyn, you have your hand up?
Yeah, well, I was just, that's a really good question. And I think it's worthwhile talking just briefly about that now before we get to council. Yeah, I mean, if that's okay with you guys.
please go ahead.
Yeah, so the reason we add those in there and we show the paybacks, obviously it's not a selling point that you can show an HVAC unit has a payback of 105 years. But the reality is that, they are more efficient. But your older systems have, in a lot of cases, banned refrigerant that's no longer available. And so the reason we include HVAC and mechanical in general is almost always a bad payback. The reason why you include them with these other measures like lighting, solar, the Gridby system, water meters, all of which have good paybacks, is that these are items that are needed infrastructure, necessary infrastructure that is at or near end of life, which means when they fail, you're going to have to spend that money anyway. And a bank won't finance if you don't have other things that, or they won't finance with the type of interest rate that we can get if you don't combine those with other measures that show a payback, a repayment method, so to speak. And so that's why we mix those in. And we show the payback. You say, look, if you were to try to justify this based on simple payback, as you pointed out, it doesn't work. It's 106 years, but we need it, right? Your facilities need to be cooled and conditioned, and that's something you're gonna spend the money for no matter what. So yeah, a lot of public agencies that we work with, they're putting in need items. Sometimes it's windows. Sometimes that have zero payback, right? Those are just things that you need to have done, and you don't have the capital to pay for it. So this is a way to finance it and amortize that over the life of the term, rather, of the contract or the financing, and that gets you in the 15-year range. So does that answer your question a little bit?
It does. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think the other part here is that the new HVAC systems would generate electricity savings, but we're reflecting at 0 because the payback's not to us.
Right.
Since we don't pay the bills. So anyway, that's just I think a point that's worth noting. If we did pay the bills, then the payback period would be quite a bit less. Well, David and Brooklyn, I think, Mayor, any other questions?
No, I think it's great. I look forward to them bringing it to council.
So we'll go ahead and if there's any final tweaks or adjustments, go ahead and or otherwise, if you want me to go ahead and use this one, maybe David, if you want to put kind of option 4 in there.
Yeah, let me do that. I'll put in the option 4. And I did take a note about addressing the paybacks, because I think it will come up, and I think Brooklyn did a great job explaining it, and we can continue to follow through with that. So David, if there's any other changes, just shoot me an email over the next couple days, and I'll get that updated to you. Other than that, thank you everybody for your time today. Appreciate the opportunity to share this all with you. And we look forward to continuing to move this project forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Next part of 4 is, let's see, presentation of Sonoma County Tourism Business Improvement Area Assessment.
Okay, well, Mayor, I see in the attendees, Mike, if we can promote Claudia Vecchio and Kelly Bass-Seibel. And Kelly, once you're in, if you could tell us, it looks like, and Lori Engstaff. So Sonoma County Tourism is proposing an adjustment in their business improvement area assessment. And ultimately, this is going to go before the board of supervisors. The team at Sonoma County Tourism is seeking our concurrence with the proposed modification in the BIA rate. And here today is the team from Sonoma County Tourism. They're going to walk us through a presentation. So Claudia or Kelly, want to start with you? If you want to do introductions, and then go ahead, you can do share screen if you like.
Sure, thank you. If you could promote KO, who's also an attendee, that would be fantastic. So thank you for having us today. I am Kelly Bass-Seibel. I'm the Vice President of Community Engagement with Sonoma County Tourism, and I'd like to introduce my fellow panelists. Start with Claudia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Claudia Vecchio. I'm President and CEO of Sonoma County Tourism, and it's a delight to be with you this afternoon. Appreciate your time.
We also have KO.
Good afternoon, I'm Ko. I'm the executive director up here at Safari West. Had a career for 25 years in hotels as well, and I've been on the board for almost since the beginning of SCT, and I also serve as the chair of the Finance and Legal Committee, so that's why I get to hang out with you guys today. Thanks for having us.
And then I'd also like to introduce Lori.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lori Angstad, and I'm the Vice President of Finance and Operations at Sonoma County Tourism.
I've asked Lori to join us because she is well immersed in the TOT and BIA situation in the county. So hopefully she can answer questions that might come up that the rest of us couldn't answer off the top of our heads. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. Let's see. I think,
We see the screen.
yeah, okay. It's not showing the actual presentation, which is a little bit odd, but one second. All right. Are you seeing the presentation mode now?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a black screen, but
Oh,
yeah, there you go.
how about now?
There you go. Perfect.
Great. All right, with that, I'm gonna turn it over to KO to begin.
While you're reading this, I don't want to read to you as much, but just a little bit of a history of Sonoma County Tourism. 2004, the hoteliers came together and wanted to do a self-assessment called a BIA. And that went through the rigors of the city and then through eventually the county council. 2005, we started collecting the BIA from all the hotels. And then back in those days, it was really driving just how many overnight stays can we drive to the county. It was the fun phrase was used back then was called heads in beds. Let's just get more heads in beds. Coming into 2018, the board decided to make a very dramatic turn and turned it from a destination marketing organization to a destination stewardship organization, which was primarily our way of listening to constituents, listening to the people, some of the anti-tourism rhetoric that was existed, and started reaching out and listening to everybody throughout the county, and then started to figure out how do we market to people who are going to come here and be responsible. And at the end of the day, that was something that was done. I think it says on the slide, first in the nation to do so. There's some more that have started jumping on board, and it's becoming more and more popular. And this presentation today is really about taking the next step, which is increasing the BIA for resilience. We want to be able to attract people who take care of the environment that they're at, they're responsible travelers, et cetera. I think that's kind of the history of the organization. You're going to see in this presentation where the return on investment for the dollars that have been generated through the BIA have been significant, some of the best in the country. And that's a tribute to the staff that's doing all the work, and a very dedicated board of directors that are intimate and really want this thing to be successful. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Kelly.
Thank you, Ko. So we do, we have a responsibility to our payors, and part of that too is promotion of the county as a whole. But I really do want to spend just a minute talking about how we benefited Cloverdale specifically. So these are numbers, and if there's questions about any of these, happy to answer, but these are just pulled from some of the information that we keep. So to date in 2022, so we do have a social media following that's quite large on both Instagram and Facebook. And we did actually just launch our TikTok channel just a couple weeks ago. But to date in 2022, Cloverdale partners have been included in more than 8 posts and blogs specifically. That is versus, a lot of times our messaging is countywide. We do have our website, sonomacounty.com. There's numerous pages where there are, when I say partner, I'm talking about any business in Cloverdale or in the county that is visitor facing. So hotels, restaurants, retail, tour operators, transportation, a business that serves wineries, a business that serves a visitor. There's lots and lots of pages that include Cloverdale or Cloverdale partners, but Cloverdale's been listed in the title of 4 of our articles on our website. And then we also have a public relations team on staff, and in 2021 they made 634 partner pitches. And when we say a pitch, it could be very specific, where a publication has asked specifically for a type of experience, tell us about a bike tour. Or it could be something broader, or it could be our PR team really trying to pitch something that's happening in the county. So out of the 634 partner pitches made in 2021, at least 14 Cloverdale partners were mentioned in those pitches made out to media. Additionally, Cloverdale has 53 businesses that are listed on sonomacounty.com. We are not a membership organization. That does differentiate us from a lot of other destination marketing organizations throughout the country, but also in Sonoma County as well. And with that, we also have spent some time getting to know Cloverdale a little bit better. We launched something this year for our staff called the Hospitality Collaborative. It's an opportunity for our staff to go in and spend time with some of the hospitality facing businesses in each community. Our staff gets to go to the community. Our staff actually, we've staff represented that live all around the county, and as you can understand with the vastness of this county, getting to really know a particular town or city can be something you need to spend some time there. So huge kudos to Nina and the Cloverdale Chamber. Cloverdale Chamber has been a fantastic partner for us throughout the pandemic, but then also with putting this collaborative together. We were able to go up to the Cloverdale Arts Alliance and hear from several different businesses in Cloverdale. Additionally, we have a hefty events listings on our website, and that includes events in Cloverdale. That's heavily trafficked by both locals and visitors. We really try to make sure that only events that are going to appeal to somebody staying here overnight are listed on our events listing. And then additionally, the North County is represented. All of our supervisors have supervisor appointees to our board. Caroline Shaw with EJ Gallo is our North County representative who's been appointed by Supervisor Gore. And then the other thing I just want to touch on here is that we do get economic data for each of our towns around tourism impacts. So visitors spent $10.5 million in Cloverdale in 2021. We have 94 employees that live in Cloverdale that are employed by this industry. And then you can also see the local tax benefit here, which is over $598,000 in local taxes were produced because of visitor spending. that I just, to point out, we do not have some of the very large hotels that we do in some of the other cities. So this is a really good representation of, how the tourism economy works in Cloverdale. Before I move on, is there any questions about specifically what we've done for Cloverdale recently?
No.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Claudia to talk a little bit more about the changes that we're looking for.
Thank you, Kelly. Keo, good afternoon, everyone again. It's a really extraordinary time to be in the tourism industry. I mean, in Sonoma County over the past 5 years, you're all well aware, we've been through fires, we've been through floods, we've been through a global pandemic, and now we find ourselves feeling our way through recovery, and hopefully with some, with the fact that I think our county is much better prepared to handle a crisis, we have some momentum that we can start really looking forward. It's been a lot of just reacting to situations through the last 5 years, and hopefully the Sonoma County Tourism has done a good job of keeping our partners informed of what was happening and how we can all work through these crises together, because it really is an all-in effort when these things occur. But now we're really hopeful that we'll be able to take a long view of tourism and a long view of how we can help best position Sonoma County, and not only position Sonoma County, but shape Sonoma County into the type of tourism destination that really will be beneficial to the area, as opposed to, as some see it, as being quite impactful to the area. So as Keo mentioned, we really are leaning into this idea of responsible and sustainable tourism. And it's so important from a Sonoma County standpoint that this is what we talk about. And this is how we really work as an organization to protect and preserve and benefit Sonoma County for the years to come. So part of this is through this initiative that we're talking about, this responsible tourism assessment. And we call this assessment, these changes in the BIA, the responsible tourism assessment, because it takes a different approach to get a specific type of audience than it does to do the sort of mass marketing that Keo talked about, heads and beds. That's a different type of approach than it is to find these particular travelers, these really highly coveted travelers. So that's really why we're calling it the responsible tourism assessment, because it is all about that. So as was mentioned, the business improvement area, the BIA, is a self-assessed, initiated collection process by which the lodging properties throughout the county saved the town of Healdsburg and Sonoma back when Keo was talking about this whole thing originating back in 2004-05. The lodging property said, hey, we want to make sure that this organization, as we're moving toward trying to do a collective countywide marketing initiative, that this organization has the funds it needs to do that. And so they said, yes, we will be assessed. We will collect this 2% from guests, put it into this fund, and then this fund will go to this entity called Sonoma County Tourism that will help market this area and market it in such a way that it will benefit the payers. So in this case, it will drive overnight travel. So for the past 17 or so years, the BIA has been in place. It's been collecting 2% by these participating partners and going into this Sonoma County Tourism Fund. But as I kind of mentioned before, and I'll talk about this in a second, we have an opportunity now to take a little different look at how these BIA funds are used and how these BIA funds benefit those payers. And so the more funds we can get to do just that, the better off we all will be. The last point is a critical one. The county has an agreement with Airbnb, and it was actually one of the first agreements in the country. Again, Sonoma County has a tendency of being right there at the front lines, but it does not include collection with the BIA, with the Airbnb properties into the BIA. So we're losing a significant amount of funding right from that agreement. And we are working with the county to change that so that these lodging properties that are within Airbnb environment do pay into this fund. I will also note that there are participating properties that pay the 2%, but then also in point number 2 up there, you'll see that back then when it was initiated, that properties needed to have an annual revenue of $350,000 a year or more to participate in this. So this also, the assessment would remove that $350,000 a year and create a more level playing field with, as you know, the lodging industry has really been impacted by vacation rentals, short-term rentals. And so making sure they're part of this and they are benefiting from this marketing fund is also incredibly important. So the TOT then, and you're all familiar with the TOT, you know, that countywide is at 12% right now, and that goes into directly into the county, and it goes into the general fund, of which Sonoma County Tourism gets 1.25% of the first 9%. So that additional 3% is not, SCT does not get any portion of that, but that then goes into the general fund and is able to support the arts, outdoor recreation, housing, education, a lot of things that just are general funded activities. So Kao talked a little bit about the growth of tourism in Sonoma County, and you can see from this graph that in fact, the TOT revenue into Sonoma County has grown, and it has grown substantially over this goes back to 2003, but when the organization was founded in 2005, you can see the growth of TOT during that time period. And then you can start to see when the impact of fires and floods and pandemics and all occurred, and the volatility of that graph at that point. But you can see through the gray line how TOT has grown, and then you can see through the sort of mustard color line how the revenue that SCT receives hasn't seen that same level of growth. It has to do a little bit with how our funds have been disseminated to SCT from the county, and I'm happy to go into that, but that changed back in 2016, which is why you see some different trajectory in that way, but it's all stayed relatively flat over the years, while the TOT growth for the county has definitely grown. And that really shows the return on investment too, with marketing dollars into tourism marketing programs. It's the ROI on those programs is significant. So as we're working to get this budget put together, that will elevate the viability of Sonoma County, of the cities and the industry, we really are looking at needing to have additional funds that will help us cut through this enormous marketing clutter. Every destination out there is trying to find visitors in the recovery time period. But as I said, it's so important for us to find these responsible travelers who will come in and really respect and preserve Sonoma County while enjoying all that the area has to offer. Certainly, we want people to still go to the wineries and go on zip lines and come up to Cloverdale and go in remarkable shops there in your downtown area, which is getting better and better every day. But we really want to restart travel in a way that does allow us this the funds to do a tremendous marketing and responsible travel campaign that will help draw visitors into the area. So we're asking for a couple of things. And this needs to go through the municipalities and up to the county for this whole thing to work. But we would like to, as I said, eliminate the $350,000 annual revenue benchmark. This really does allow those smaller properties to participate in marketing efforts, but it also levels the playing field. So there is, as you could see, there's a lot of benefit that happens through tourism marketing and the information that goes out about Sonoma County, and they're reaping the benefits of that without paying into those programs. So this really allows us, as I say, to level the playing field so all lodging properties are participating in this, and then raise the allocation per participating property from 2 to 3%. And we have heard from our lodging properties, and they they've supportive of this. And so that's definitely conversations we had prior to coming to all of you, is talking to our lodging properties to make sure that was something they could support. And the answer is most definitely yes. Just as an overview of Sonoma County Tourism's budget, and with Lori on, she can certainly answer any questions about this. But as we look at the budget for this upcoming year, which is one that started a month ago, July 1st, we could forecast that for this year, Sonoma County Tourism's budget's about $9.2 million, with the BIA being 6.1 million of that and TOT being approximately 3 million of that. And that may seem like that's a hefty budget for us to promote Sonoma County. But if we look at the other destinations, similar destinations, and some of these are smaller destinations than we are in terms of the amount that we have to market the diversity of our product. You can see Santa Barbara at 11.5, Newport Beach at 10.5, San Luis Obispo at 11, and then Palm Springs, which is a much bigger destination than ours, but they're up at 28 million. And then Napa Valley, which operates a little different structure than we do, at 7.7 million. So if we do change that BIA structure, eliminate the $350,000 benchmark and raise the collections from 2 to 3%, we're looking at about $5 million difference. And that's an estimate. It's based on industry performance, but that's an estimate that will take us right up to about $14 million. And that puts us in a good competitive place against those destinations you see on that page. I talked a little bit about, I'm not going to go through all of these. I know you all have this deck, but this is where this really gets into super marketing speak. But there is increasing competition out there from those destinations we just showed and myriad other destinations that are looking to find travelers, and travelers who will enjoy wine, travelers who enjoy culinary, travelers who enjoy a lot of the same assets we have in Sonoma County. But as we talked about throughout this, we really want to find those visitors who are interested in protecting and preserving this area. So for years to come, Sonoma County will continue to flourish as a wonderful place to live and a wonderful place to visit. And that's a more expensive proposition than, as I talked about before, that sort of mass marketing initiative. Our agency put together just a quick overview of the type of dollars that are required for us to be somewhat successful in our incredibly expensive markets that are our key advertising markets. And you can see between Los Angeles and Seattle and Portland, San Diego, Phoenix, Dallas, and Denver, the amount to market adequately in these places is doing nothing but going up, up, up. So it's important that we have the dollars we need to make an impact in these markets.
Claudia, can I just add something here?
Sure.
So we talk a lot about responsible travel and who a responsible traveler is, and it's really somebody who comes and loves this place like a local does, gets immersed in the culture and leaves the space better than they found it. And we were able to test a little bit with our marketing team back at the end of May, really pushing that responsible travel message out into Los Angeles, and they did a little bit of, really driving home that responsible travel message. I started SCT in 2019, so you can imagine it's been a little bit of a wild ride. But every month we look at a lot of different data, but one of them is web traffic. Since I've been here, the top 10 pages on SonomaCounty.com always include Bodega Bay, always include Bodega Dunes Campground, and some other page that has to do with the coast or the river, depending on the time of year. And then it usually also includes some sort of popular local event. After they put money into this responsible travel messaging at the end of May, for the first time, our top pages included our responsible travel page, our sustainability page, and our Leave No Trace Sonoma County 7 Principles of Responsible Travel. And there was only one Bodega Bay page that was in the top 10. And so there really is, we're starting to test it a little bit and we are seeing results, but to be really targeted, to actually make that sale to get those travelers here that are going to spend more money, but also leave this place better than they found it, there is a pretty significant investment that needs to happen. So I just wanted to share, we've started to test that a little bit.
Great point. The other thing Sonoma County Tourism has done, and quite honestly, to a higher level than most other organizations like ours across the country, is to work with local social issues. We know we have a number of those here in Sonoma County, but to have Sonoma County Tourism, that used to be as a destination marketing organization, we were never in these conversations. And it was, you know, we were the marketers that marketed outside the county, and you know, that was our place. Our place wasn't really as residents. And so we are taking a much broader view of what tourism looks like. And that really is the idea of destination stewardship. So looking at the issues such as on the unsheltered population, we know that in some ways our homeless population does impact tourism, but even more it impacts our capacity to operate at a really high level as a county. So that's an important place for Sonoma County Tourism to be. The emergency response toolkit, we've worked very closely with the Office of Emergency Management through the county and with the chambers across the county to develop an emergency response toolkit that hopefully we'll never have to use again. But if we do, it is in place, and we have an ongoing crisis plan that we share with our chambers and our partners across the county. So very much involved with our emergency response and this idea of becoming a more resilient destination. We did a lot during COVID, as you can imagine. We've changed in many ways the overall mission of Sonoma County Tourism. We certainly didn't do marketing, but what we did do was a lot of communications and helping our partners understand how this pandemic was unfolding and the way they, as business owners and residents, could manage and still support our businesses, but do so in a healthy and safe way. And then Kelly mentioned the regional parks and our Leave No Trace partnership. This is something that, again, is really innovative for Leave No Trace to have an organization like ours partner with a parks entity to create these 7 principles to encourage responsible travel is new. And then it's even gone on beyond that to a multi-county-wide between Mendocino, Sonoma, and Marin County coastal, keeping our coastal coasts clean initiative. That's not the official title, I'm sorry, but that is, we're continuing to have that impact and that influence about Leave No Trace and to be really responsible visitors when people come into the area. So that addition into the social and local issues is really has to be done through our TOT taxes, because it's not necessarily directly benefiting the payers of the BIA, but these are critically important issues. And so it's important for us to use that portion of our money in this way. And again, in a new way that Sonoma County Tourism wasn't doing before. We've had to put together a plan, if you will, a marketing plan for how we will benefit the payers, as we've mentioned several times here with this BIA, the change in the BIA. So we've done so, and I won't go through all of these, but because you have this deck and they still are in the process of being developed, but we are looking at ways that we can directly benefit those smaller entities, the vacation rentals, everything from press trips and their presence on our website, to creating a committee that especially talks about the issues and the opportunities around these particular types of lodging properties, because they are very different from our traditional lodging, hotel, motel establishments. And then when we look at those larger establishments, how we will benefit them as we move from a 2 to 3% collection rate. And it really is amplifying the things we already are doing. Though we have a very close relationship with the airport here in Santa Rosa at STS, but to ensure that we continue to promote those direct flight cities, those are super important for generating overnight travel, also important for responsible travel. We know from research that people who come from further distances generally pay more respect to the place they're visiting. They're putting a larger economic commitment into it, so they do want to protect and preserve that area. Represents Sonoma County additional travel trade shows. We do a lot of that. So continuing to promote these properties at those shows. We have been really successful with client events in key markets such as Los Angeles and Dallas and Denver, to continue to do that. That really does bring Sonoma County to that important market and showcases all the area has to offer. These are just more, it's kind of more of the same things we're doing to amplify our sales efforts, amplify our content development, amplify the marketing piece, all around that idea of responsible travel, but in a way that really creates an emotional connection and really does invite people here in a really special way. And it will most definitely benefit those properties. The other thing we're going to do with places like Cloverdale, and I used to live in Cloverdale, so I'm a Cloverdalian through and through, is to develop a neighborhoods program that creates customized ongoing content promotional offerings for places like Cloverdale. We have a place on our website, and you probably looked at that, but it's not really showcasing that the richness of Cloverdale. It's not telling the stories. It's not creating that cool and innovative vibe that Cloverdale is so great and so well known for. So we're going to create this program that does do that on a much more updated and updated level. And then Kelly showed you a little bit about the performance data, but we get that economic impact data on an annual basis, and we can do that more frequently so that all of you around that table, especially those of you interested in the financial impacts of tourism, will have that at your fingertips. And so we are going to make sure that those data are available to you on an updated level. And we're going to continue to look at the benefits and how we can make sure that this program is operating at the highest level and at the greatest benefit of all of our partners. I'll turn it over to Kelly now for the critical part of that, and that is the time frame for how we hope this will all unfold.
So I just realized that this is already out of date because the hearing date's calendared by the Board of Supervisors actually tomorrow, not July 12th. But the way this process works is a legal process, and we're in. I really want to appreciate David just for getting us on your calendar and having this conversation. You know, I know that you all have a lot going on, and this is we really are asking our cities to do a heavy lift in hearing from us in a very short period of time. That has to, you know, we've been having this conversation, our board's been having these conversations for a couple of years, and there's been a lot of starts and stops, all because of the, you know, it started with the Kincaid fire, and then with COVID, it has not been the right time. And we're finally at a point where our board has said, you know, let's go for this, and let's really have this conversation. With that, this is an ordinance, it's a county-wide ordinance. And you all have a resolution of consent to that ordinance. So the process to change the ordinance is to have all of the participating municipalities have a new resolution of consent, and the Board of Supervisors change the ordinance. So for that to happen, there is a legal process, and tomorrow during the Board of Supervisors meeting, they are looking at adding us to their calendar for this year with the first hearing of the ordinance on October 4th. Then there's a waiting period that would happen where we'd also have a public meeting, and then December 13th is the date that the Board of Supervisors are looking at for the second reading of the ordinance and adoption of the ordinance. With that, the Board of Supervisors has asked us to come to you all first, and they really want to make sure you're on board with it because it's a really heavy lift to do if the cities are not on board. So with that, they've asked for us to meet with all of the city councils that participate, ideally by August 31st, but we have up until September 20th, which is kind of their drop dead date to get their packet together for the board for October 4th. And so what we are doing right now is we've met with all of the city managers, and now we're going to the next step of meeting with councils. And so again, appreciate your time. What we're hoping is that we get any questions answered today by the finance subcommittee, and that we can come and present to your council later this month. So with that, we are happy to answer any questions you all might have.
I have no question.
So Kelly, at this time, the mayor doesn't have any questions. I think that the next step, and I'd be curious what steps you're taking with your other participating municipalities. Are you going to city councils with a request to take action on resolutions of intent right off the bat? Or are you making the same presentation you just made to the council and then coming back kind of to make sure the full council's apprised of the proposed modification, the BIA? Are you doing that all concurrent? So I guess maybe
I think it's going to depend honestly on the city. You and Katati are first to go, and you're both approaching it in a similar manner, which is I think you both have indicated that probably the best thing to do would be to do a presentation to council and then come back and have it be perhaps part of your consent calendar to adopt the resolution of consent. So that has been what we've heard so far, but we're also in such a tight time crunch, and some of our councils are they take August off for meeting, so that will not likely end up being the case for everybody. And then every city operates a little bit differently, so how we've been working with city councils and city managers is dependent on the city and kind of how they operate and how they present information to their councils.
See, I would recommend they bring a resolution the first meeting because they're going to have enough support. I think with the council that we have now, I think they're good. I would just recommend trying to shorten the presentation so that it's more condensed and quick, and have a few. I think it'll just be a few questions.
So the direction I hear, Mayor, is coordinate with the SCT team to bring forward the presentation along with resolution of intent so that council can go ahead and take action.
Yeah.
Okay. Because my discussion with Kelly was, sometimes we might get to that process presentation, just bring it back as consent item next one, but we could package it up.
Either way, let's not do it twice because you'll have support.
Okay.
With the council that we have right now, you'll have enough support. In my opinion, obviously.
So Claudia, Kelly, Kale, Lori, thank you for your presentation. Very informative. The direction from the mayor, you gave a very detailed presentation, and I, just so you're aware, have shared the presentation, your white paper, with our council via email. Kelly, I think I copied you on that, so you were apprised. The direction at this point is to go ahead and I'll coordinate with you on bringing this forward. From my perspective, I've got what I need in terms of the presentation, but if you want to look at that and see if there's any way to kind of condense it, obviously doesn't want to run the meetings late into the evening, but also to Tate, if you have a model agenda report and resolution for the, we want to make sure we capture the language that needs to be, that the board of supervisors is looking for.
Yeah, we have a draft resolution that we can send you that's been put together to support the ordinance.
You're meeting with the board of supervisors tomorrow, correct?
Yes. So if they say tomorrow, no, thank you, then I will let you all know, but we don't suspect that will happen. They just, twice a year, they review everything. All the major items they're going to hear throughout the year. And the only change for the second 6 months of this year is to add this to their calendar.
Got it. So I think we get direction to move this forward. Coordinate with you on the date and time of the meeting. More than likely we'll be looking at August 24th. That's the second meeting in August. Or alternatively, it would be September 14th if we push into September.
We would love it if we could make it August 21st, if that's possible.
We can make that work on our end. Our agenda deadline for the 24th is Monday, August 15th.
Perfect. I can also, David, let me know what you need for your staff report, and I'm happy to help support that as well.
Okay. Yeah, if you have a model report, you know, and want to reinvent the wheel, that would make it a lot easier.
I've done one already, so happy to do another one.
Okay. Well, if is anything else, I just want to say thank you for your presentation today on behalf of the mayor, and we'll coordinate together on bringing this forward to council.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
All right. Moving on to the next item is report on new police station design.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And I believe our member of the public joining us from our staff, our team here is here to speak to this item. Just a little bit of background. There was a request by council. You know, kind of came out of closed session. There was, you know, discussion really that kind of started with the Times Square parcel, for which we had entered into a exclusive negotiating agreement with the developer for affordable housing. But prior to that, and as part of the master planning effort for the Times Square property, we had identified, say we, meaning the council, had identified the proposed use of site for a new police station. So at that time, we contracted with an architectural design firm to go through really what was a fairly detailed evaluation that included programming for a future police station that looked at, you know, space needs, what are some of the legal requirements that are, you know, current legal requirements that we need to address in terms of a new public safety facility. And we, you know, that's kind of a specific issue we can talk a little bit about. But basically, we went through that whole process, developed what I would call a fairly detailed conceptual design, basically got to the almost 90% level drawings. And at that time, we generated, well, I see we went through the architectural firm, professional cost estimator that developed a construction cost estimate for the project. And that didn't include the cost of acquisition of the parcel, you know, which we could estimate just based on looking at appraisals that were done for the next, you know, on a square foot basis, kind of come up with a value, because it was determined that even if the city used, the city would have to reimburse the housing successor agency. So, but that was one issue we didn't do a deep dive on. But ultimately, after doing the work, and we had a little bit of sticker shock when we received the initial cost estimate, which it was really kind of broken down into three areas. One was just the cost of construction itself. So that was, you know, the building basically, and the necessary infrastructure to serve the building. But then there were also both offsite improvement costs. So, you know, certainly the sidewalk is not in great shape in that area. You know, there's some striping. There's also some shared costs with the driveway between that had been identified. That would be between this parcel and the Alexander Valley Healthcare, and then there's also so a combination of offsite and on-site improvement costs that, you know, bring the project up to just about you know, $17.5 million. So this was where we left. This was in spring of 2019, when we heard that the, you know, council's direction was to bring this forward. We did ask the consulting architect to take a look at the cost estimate and just see if we can give us kind of round numbers. And they're just kind of you know, taking the analysis that they had previously prepared. They show an increase of roughly $3 million. So at least what we're looking at currently in terms of cost estimate for the project is roughly 20 million. And so, at the time, that's looking at the market and looking at the need to fund this, it was really looking at the need to issue some kind of general obligation bond or financing to be able to afford this. And I know our finance director did look at, and we were contemplating possibly a low interest loan from USDA. But even then, the principal and interest payment was somewhere at around $1 million a year, which would be general fund, and we just didn't have the funds to support that annualized cost. And that was at, I think, the lower number. I think we were looking at kind of around 13 million at the time, and of course it came in at 17. Now it's at 20, and the architects are continuing to say that there's almost a monthly inflator that we're currently dealing with now. Market's kind of changing. We've got a lot of changing dynamics, so that could, some inflationary costs could be, we might see some softening or some slowdown economically. We did start down the route of at least looking at the facility, and that was the time when the chief came on board, and I think there are some modifications that could make some significant reductions. For example, there's a temporary holding cell. There was, when we were looking at it, there was this determination that it was going to be legally required for us to have that, but I think it was always identified as something that we might be able to not have and just rely on taking in folks that need to come into a holding cell, taken into the sheriff's office. So that would be an area if council was interested in, or as directed by the subcommittee, we could iterate through an exercise of looking at where the facility could be modified to reduce some costs. With that said, we're still dealing with a pretty significant capital need to fund the project. Some opportunities there, of course, we're seeing is, there are a lot of grants out there, a lot of funding. Typically, they're not going to fund a project like this in its entirety. And kind of combination of other funding approved to show how there's a local contribution. But I'll just pause there, Mayor, and there's a lot to be said, and it's I guess the other thing I just want to share that was that I know there was interest by council in the possibility of citing a new city hall, and the architects did identify a location immediately adjacent to, probably functionally would be attached but have secure access. Could accommodate a 2-story smaller city hall, but that's not included in the cost estimate. It was just shown for future kind of site planning, so that if we were ever to go down that route, we would have a location that could accommodate a future city hall. And then, part of the thinking too that went into this was following kind of the concept of community policing. Was there was we identified it as a training room, but it was also could also be a community room that could serve multiple purposes. One, service obviously training for officers, much like the Cotati police station, have a public meeting room. Could even serve do the technology right, could serve as a council meeting location, rather than the CPAC. And that's something we pay for. So there's, there would be some benefits there, but also could be again a community room for community, not community events, but community organizations that to engage with our police department. So, anyways, Chief, you have anything you wanted to add about
I'll just simply add that when I originally looked at the design of the facility, one of the things that really stuck out was the number of holding facilities that were represented in there. And when you think about cost, one of the ways that I considered a possibility to reduce the facility size and maybe get some of those costs lower was to eliminate those holding cells, because you're not only dealing with the square footage reduction, but you're also dealing with what it costs to construct holding facilities, because we have to adhere to all of the state requirements that now we have to do that we don't currently have with the facility that we don't use now. So I looked at 4 of those as it seemed a little bit over the top for what our needs were. You have to take into consideration too is we're not getting a lot of help on the other end, so we would only be taking people down in significant situations. And we're not, unfortunately, a lot of people getting cited out, so our need for those. I also have liability concerns when it comes to those as well.
You don't have the manpower to.
It's difficult, and it's not something I would ask a single dispatcher to be monitoring on a camera, particularly if there's more. There's some concerns, but initially that was what we looked at on the design. I don't know how much square footage that removes, or how much price or cost that would be to remove, but it certainly would make a difference. And so that was something that I initially came up with. But other than that, obviously the need, I don't have to explain that, is there. We would certainly love to have one. I think our current facility and where it stands. But certainly the funding mechanism of this creates a little bit of an issue. David and I even met with the USDA to discuss the loan that was originally discussed back when this was proposed. But again, that's where we're at right now. I know we're resurfacing this and bringing it back up, but there's been significant changes in cost, and I can only assume that that's going to go up as we continue to move forward, because this doesn't happen overnight.
Is there anything else that you thought you could eliminate? Like if you had a list, because I want us to go through one thing.
Right. We have to really sit down and determine what is our true needs and what do we need. I will tell you the design itself is ideal for us, and what we have, we're expanding, we're outgrowing the current facility. I think you know that. So the size is really where we're at. I was really more concerned about the holding facilities and how much square footage that was taking, in addition to the cost. I don't know what it is to construct a holding facility, but it's certainly got to be quite a bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of expensive components to those spaces with the walking bars.
You're doing everything else.
Yeah, I think we'd want to avoid, if this was something that we're really going to move forward on, is avoiding too much shaving off square footage. There is definitely a need for all of us.
I don't think it's the square footage, really. I think it's things like that we're not big enough for that. I don't think we ever will be in our lifetime. I don't know. That's me, and that's why I look at like the desk areas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 19. Is that about right? I don't know. I see 21, no, 19.
We're approved for
approximately 19 cubicle areas and stuff, or offices. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, or you could, when I look at things like that, I go, okay, is that too many? Is that, are you planning for the future with that enough or not?
Well, I don't think you can ever go wrong with doing that, but I'll just tell you right now where we're at with all these spaces. We just brought in another officer. So right now I have 10 of them sharing, that one upstairs floor it's divided right with the kitchen and everything else. So as it is, they're doubled up in the cubicle as it is now. So, and the cost of doing business in law enforcement, everything is increasing now. Their needs inside those cubicles are a lot of things that have increased in there.
For sure.
So
I wasn't sure if they each needed individual offices. That's kind of what they're laid out here.
Right.
And I might be talking about $100,000 skimmed off into the matter. I don't know. I'm looking for ways to sell it, basically.
And I understand that, and that's certainly something we can sit down and take another look at the design and try to figure out where, if anywhere, that we can modify that.
How about the community room that they have on that?
So this community room was also shared with, this was gonna be like, for events, even at EOC, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we hadn't fully programmed it, but the thought was kind of. There was multiple consideration. One is having a training space, because as right now, we don't really have a training room built in.
Correct.
So that would
You
sort of
would-
that.
You wouldn't want that in the front lobby, I don't think, a training room for officers, that's not a protected area. It's unsecured, open to everybody. I mean, just thinking out loud, because you have a briefing room instead in here.
Yeah, the kind of the concept follows. You know, one of the things we did as background of this, we toured a number of facilities. And the one that kind of we kept coming back to is maybe the best fit was Katati. And Katati had this kind of, that similar, not the same layout, but they have where you can, when you're in the entrance, they had a community space. So you can make it secure, you can lock it down like for, you know, a private training session, but it also had that component. And there was a thought here is to, and again, I'm just articulating the kind of the design concept was to bring that public component out to the community. So that's kind of what you see there. And then when you look at the architectural rendering, you kind of see that community space. It was something to kind of, you know, the architects are better articulating this is to create that visibility to that community space. But again, it was kind of one training room. You could use it as your EOC, you could use it as a city training room. And then you could, it would also accommodate you using like the council chambers or yeah. So, you know, thinking long-term, have all those uses. If we had city hall next to it, you kind of have a really packaged.
Well, something I what I'm trying to figure out is how we can merge the two together, and do like a bond. You know, let's see what, I don't know what our bonding capacity is here. If it's anywhere near, because then now you're talking to 30 to 40 million. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Properties here were what, 5 mil, probably sitting here in the middle of town. Now you're 25 million. Because it's just the property, it's not the building.
Yeah.
It's demoed.
Police station would certainly be demoed. And you know, when we had conversation too with council on that, it was kind of the thought was, well, we could expand the plaza. So it was almost not thinking of it as an economic use, but it's more of a social use. So, but again, that would
All pipe dreams for that. I get it, but you know, when you need money in your pocket in the low income community, I have to look at dollars. I love it. I mean, I would like to know what our capacity is to see if we can get near it. And
we could certainly, I think, Susie, maybe we can talk to bond council and work with, and just to get a sense of what is our bonding capacity in the community, to understand. And then, you know, there are obviously other funding sources we can look to, you know, our federal representatives, you know, talking to Huffman and our senators and say, gosh, we have a tremendous need, and see if there are one earmarks. I mean, and secondarily, is there a particular federal financing program that would you know, help support some of the costs associated with this new facility. So you know, it is intended to be a long-term, you know, 50-year community asset. So, you know, we look at it kind of from that perspective is we don't want to build the Taj Mahal, but by the same token, we don't want to forego things that we think, you know, we have to rebuild later.
Same crap you did in school. I mean, we put in portables the first time because no one wanted to spend the money. And now we just replace the portables that we bought 10 years ago. And it's like, okay, now do you understand why the money could have been spent?
Yeah.
Do it right the first time.
Yeah.
And that's why I look at this to say, chief, you know, trim the fat if there is any. But we need to find out what our capacity is, what other needs we have in our town right now, and put something out to find out how much people like it. You know, you get your guys to go out and do the surveys to see if it's going to be something we pass and put on an election in 2 years.
We could
2024 is a tough one too, because it's the presidential. Usually people skip that and focus on the midterm.
You know, one of the other kind of thought processes here is, there's a lot to unpack in this, both one from the review of the architectural design and the cost, but then also ultimately, how do you finance it and getting, so breaking all that down into component pieces, do we want to start doing that survey work to assess, much like we did when we did the, I think we did the utility user tax, we did a survey, kind of garner where the community sits for, but we before we do that, we probably need to go through the exercise of just really looking at the facility, see if there are elements that can be reduced or eliminated to kind of help cost savings, and kind of come up with a number and ultimately really be clear on, the programming element. Maybe the community space is something that, the community says, hey, we're fine without that, but we want to see a police station. So that would eliminate that piece of it. It is, do we want to do that work at a subcommittee? Does council want to maybe form, an ad hoc? That's another subcommittee. It's just, there's different ways we can kind of break this up, and maybe we form a combination of a council ad hoc with staff to kind of sit down and be able to delve into this a little bit more.
I think it's really important this time around that we even have the bonding capacity to do it. They came in and said, we have 20 million. I don't know where we are, no clue. So that would just tell us whether we can or can't to start out. Then I would have a new rendering done that shows City Hall somehow involved in it.
Okay.
And whatever it doesn't want. But, when we get to the point that we kind of have an idea, we really need to start selling it. And explain that when John goes down the stairs and sued us for $5 million, that was your property room you didn't pay for. Right.
It wouldn't probably hurt Vice Chair to bring it to council, just to update some folks about where we're at versus where we were. If we're in the talks again, just because there's probably individuals on the council right now who weren't part of this and aren't aware of what has been done, the renderings and the amount of money that's put in.
But you will also have council that will say no to every step of this. Unless you wanted to be a 4-1 or maybe a 3-2, and instead of being, something.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting it's a vote, maybe just presentations.
Your comments will be very well known.
Yeah.
Who is for it, who isn't. I don't know if we'd have to have everyone there to have enough support. That's what we're.
Yeah.
I was thinking at this point, if we had these answers, then bring it to council. Because if it's not even an option, I don't want to put someone stir the pot.
I got you.
And because it would give somebody else a lot more power to know that it didn't happen. It wouldn't be the truth of life.
So we'll look at bonding capacity, and I think, Chief, we should probably re-engage. And then, sent the architect an email, and they immediately got back to us. So I know that, they're proud of the work that they did, and they'd be willing to, we probably need to re-engage them with some kind of contract to say, let's relook at this and see if there's any areas that we can.
And I think I can make it to council with in the first September meeting, probably. The capacity comes up pretty quick. It's going to be the architect doing a quick rendering that shows something with City Hall and whatever you do or don't want.
Right.
If there's any changes to the outside of the building. That's really what it would be and bring back for the talks.
Maybe some phasing to see if there's anything that could be, I don't know if that even makes sense. The holding cells are pretty small square footage wise, but they're expensive.
They're expensive to build.
And
You can look at what we've done, like that school building, you're $2 million a classroom when you're building. So I can only imagine what's
Right.
on average.
It's more so that we have to follow certain rules and regulations in regards to just those, let alone all the other parts of the facility, but these will have its own. And so we just need to take a hard look at it and go through it and see, like you said, where we could shave some of the value.
And there might not be any. I don't know what you're going to come up with. I'm not saying any of it's wrong.
Well, if I say there's not any.
Hey, you know what? I'll push it. Either way, I'm on board. Because I want it done right, and I know you need it. And I support it 100%. So if you tell me there's nothing, I'm going to believe you 100%. And still, if Susie says we have $60 million sitting there in bonding capacity, and we can go up this bond, we have support from the community, why wouldn't we? They told me I wouldn't get a gym, football field, and classrooms. You know it'll happen. You just gotta push.
There's no question that it's definitely needed. And you know, the challenge too has been for us, I know the chief brings forward things, is what level of investment do we make in the existing station? And there's a certain level of investment just to be able to continue to maintain it.
Like your last presentation, it's about $1 million in PG&E upgrades. You know, why put the money into that?
Yeah, well, to David's point, we did look at trying to do some upgrades with like a 4-phase approach to it, and got shot down after the first because it's needing so much from retrofitting, and there's going to be a lot of expense even involved in that. So here you go back to how much you're going to invest in this existing facility.
Chief, did this have solar panels, do you remember?
I have to go back and look. I'm not sure if the solar was considered in that design. I can certainly look and get back to you. I mean, we're going to go over the whole thing anyway. And
Yeah.
that's certainly something to take into.
Solar panels are just.
There's a PV system over the
You
carport.
see it?
Yeah, it's on page 27, the cost estimate.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And you know, the thought there was, because I think there was an interest in having the police cars be covered, rather than covering with steel, cover them with photovoltaics.
Right. I was gonna say that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
For sure. It's expensive though.
Yeah, it shows here
Worth it.
it's 405,000, and it's probably gonna.
Mhm.
You can show your, well, we'd like to see that you're gonna be saving money.
Right.
Cost you an extra 10 million, but you're gonna save money.
Yeah, and there was definitely some, you know, some elements to the project. It was just, you know, having a presence in the outside and, you know, making it something that the community is going to be proud of.
Well, you're almost creating a community center with ABH, fire, police, city hall, all right there. It's perfect, in my opinion. It's no other place to do it. I think it's just right. I would love to see it go through.
Okay, well, I think we have our direction on this, and
Put it on as soon as you get the answers, if they're good answers.
so well, I guess we'll check in there. So we, depending on what feedback we get, we'll either bring it back for at least one more touch with the subcommittee, and if not, just we'll on it up to council, not on it, but bring it up and do a
Yeah.
presentation and update.
So you guys will know if it's good to bring. You do it.
Okay, well,
Let's get it moving.
Mayor, just want to offer your
Public comment.
I agree that the holding facilities are kind of a waste now, the way everything is. We haven't used them in forever, so. We just need to book in,
be nice not to have to pay for it to be inspected every year.
you know. If the money's not there to do the project, then we're throwing more money at it.
Right. You have to know what you can spend. I think that we would get support from this community. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, you want to develop a strategy to, you know, get that support from the community. And look at what they have now, why we need a new one.
Do you have someone that you've used in the past for bonds? I don't know if either of you have been here.
Yeah, well,
Last fall.
we've done some we did the redevelopment refunding, and then we did the you know, the survey, we did the utility user tax survey, so I think we can talk to
Jones Hall.
you know, Jones Hall, and they'll be helpful. They should be able to give us a number, or I don't know, we'll have to
That's resource. Look forward to hearing.
We do have a hand raised, just you're curious.
Oh, Jane.
Hi, Jane. Oh, she's coming up.
Oh,
You want me to wait for an item or allow permission to speak?
Go ahead and give her permission to speak, please.
Hi, good afternoon,
Yes.
everyone. I just want to say on the recent discussion that you had going, I don't know what the architectural firm had been looking at, but we do have an upcoming energy code that's going to be coming up, and regardless of whether or not you want to do solar, you may be dictated to do solar. So not only with the energy code, but you've also got Cal Green coming up too, that is going to definitely dictate some of those requirements on brand new construction. That's all.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. Move on to the next one, which is the flag policy.
I skipped one.
Did you just skip one?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please, I just saw the word please and I went right past it. I apologize.
Mayor, turn this over to the chief for presentation.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So if you recall, on May 25th, council voted 4-1 to approve the temp officer position. We had hoped at that time to get moving right away, and we did start moving right away on getting a promotional hiring flyer out. We used our normal promotional platforms to get it out there. As of today, we have received one application, and we're not getting a whole lot of interested candidates. Unfortunately, we have left the position open until filled, hoping to get some more individuals applying, whether lateral or new employees. And I will just tell you that the individual that did apply, I am familiar with, and I will tell you that there might be some concerns there that might not likely result in a hire. But I did some research just trying to look at what other agencies around the county, just about all of them are hiring or in hiring processes. And several of them do offer hiring incentives. I did put a chart down here that does discuss and show what some of these incentives are. Clearly knowing that the city of Cloverdale is not going to be in there, but I just wanted to give an example of some of these organizations and why this also creates a significant challenge for us to get well-qualified applicants, particularly in the lateral. As you can see, there's some of the incentives that are offered. Petaluma probably the highest right now for its lateral. These are great incentives, but they draw people away from us. So what I was hoping is to maybe have to see if the city would entertain the idea and consider a potential hiring incentive to put Cloverdale on the map and try to get us in there for those that want to be in a smaller agency up north. Try to give us an opportunity to get some folks, whether lateral or new. As you know, the challenges with the new one, we're training them from ground zero. We're got an FTO program. Ideally, I'd love to get a lateral here, be able to try to train them, get them trained quicker. Most of them have the knowledge of the job. And so, but either way, I think a hiring incentive is hopefully going to open it up a little bit and bring us some more qualified applicants. And so that's why I presented this for you here, is to see what's going on there. And I did put in there that Katani and Sebastopol do not have hiring incentives, nor does the county, which would include Sonoma
And Chief, you're in terms of hiring incentive, you're recommending the total package of 5,000 broken down between the $2,500 bonus at hire and then 2,500 upon completion of probation.
Correct.
Okay. So that we'd still be below yields per, but what you're saying is with the incentive, at least we're on the map, we do offer an incentive package, and it might be a way to get an attractive qualified applicant to apply for the position.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's the whole idea here, is to have people actually look our way, right? And give us, and I know Hillsboroug's had a really tough time with their incentives, even trying to get people. And last I heard, and I'll confirm this, but I believe they were looking at hiring 24/5 out of the academy. Is what they're left with. So some challenges all around with hiring. But we're certainly going to struggle. We only have one since this began after approval.
Is there anything, I guess, to hire that's a good trigger? Are there any opportunities to engage with potential applicants earlier in the process? So I'm thinking about if you get somebody who's maybe in the academy or thinking about entering the academy, can you, are they, it's a lack of a better word, catchable at that point?
Yeah, you can certainly go down there, assuming that there's academy recruits that are not affiliated already. And there's challenges in that so many of these classes already have affiliation. So you're picking with very few that aren't affiliated. And that's assuming they haven't tested and were not picked up.
I was gonna say that usually a reason they're unaffiliated.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but there's 2 in the class that aren't, but everybody else is affiliated, either time they started the academy or prior to, because some get hired while they're in there. So, that's something we can certainly entertain the idea of, but we've used pretty much all the other platforms that are out there for hiring. So it's going to be a challenge. And of course, we wanted to get that person here, hired, trained, and be ready by the first of the year. At this point, these delays are really going to hamper our ability, because this, as you know, is hinged on the SRO position. So it's going to be really hard for us to get somebody over there unless we get this new person and the same boat.
If I have anything else, like maybe money to help them move as well.
I have not looked into that. That would take a little bit more research on how that looks and what requirements are with that.
Trying to open up our area.
Yeah.
Local base. If you're working in Reading, you can make more money here and maybe help you move here, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we have to determine what we can do to make that happen. I'm not an expert in that area, like how that looks. But I know there's other agencies that do offer those kind of things. So we can certainly pick their brain and figure out what that looks like.
I think you'd have support of you for something council. But I would recommend shoot for the stars and then let us knock it down a little bit. What do you think, David? I mean,
Well, I was looking at it, I would say, target what you prefer.
yeah, I would target Hillsburg or break it up where you do the 25-25 and then completion of 3, you get something else. So that it's more appealing, especially for one gym.
Well, and I think that's what, when you look at these, and I probably should have indicated this, Road Park, Petaluma, the 3 years there.
Yeah.
That's what's keeping those folks.
Yeah.
Because you're guaranteed the 3 years and you have to complete that 3rd year to get the 10. So that's basically saying, you're at least giving us 3. We're happy with that.
Right.
If you take your 10 and run, do that, hey, whatever. But I wouldn't disagree with that. I just didn't want to make too much of a reach at first.
I would try it because I think that you'll have people that'll negotiate with you at the council. And so I would definitely ask for what you think that we should ask for to get somebody here.
Maybe even have it go all the way up until 5 years when they get longevity pay, like annually.
Yep.
Maybe it's less money, but maybe you do it longer, or I don't know. Because I think people would stay if they're not getting a bonus on a certain day, then you might stay longer.
Yeah, I don't know if the moving part would go against union or if that have to be approved through them as well or anything. They're not technically hired at that point. I don't think.
A hiring bonus and then the residency, we'll give you 8,000 a year.
And that's,
Within the suspense.
wow. Something to think about. Any other ideas?
And the only problem I can see is retention on people. Because nothing is so, nobody, they'll come here and they'll do their year, get their post,
Right.
no matter what's going on.
All the more reason than look at that 3 year and just at least get a commitment.
Maybe in that 3 years, we can figure out ways to increase pay and get the longevity.
Yeah, 'cause I know people that have gone to places where they had, where they had to stay for a few years. They left anyways, just for the more money, just.
At least you get your time out.
Get a year out.
Mayor Lance, sorry for the interruption. If the gentleman in the chair can please state their name for the record.
John Camara,
Thank you.
Couples Association.
Thank you.
There is a timing issue too. I think she's got enough direction there to bring it forward, depending on where we stand with the labor groups. Obviously, that'll be able to identify what the ultimate salary might be. Second, I know sometimes it just comes down to dollars and cents. If there is a
Lake County hired people, so it's not always about that.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well, let me just say how struggling they are.
Oh my God.
You can imagine. I'm trying to find them.
All right. Is that good, Chief?
Yeah.
Now we go on to the next one.
Okay, flag policy, all right. As directed by council, we brought this discussion to council about whether to develop a flag policy. The direction was to staff, was primarily to myself, was to develop a draft flag policy and bring it to the subcommittee for review. We really did. We looked at two sets of policies, and there are others, but kind of focusing on those cities that are closest to us was looking at Gilbert and Windsor, and we very closely developed a draft policy that follows kind of the Windsor model, which had been fairly vetted legally from the city attorney's office. One of the key differences between Windsor and Cloverdale is that they have a long-standing practice of flying the MIA flag, and that's because their primary flag locations, they have two flagpoles, so that they're able to accommodate that. And they also have a town of Windsor flag, so they kind of accommodate their flag policy accommodates us. But this is basically a draft that's really intended to show that or indicate that display of the flag. We're going to see a typo here. Is intended to be reflective of a government speech, not free speech, and that is that the policy would reflect that, in addition to flying the U.S. flag and the state flag, any commemorative flags would have to be approved by council. I did note in the policy that, current commemorative flags, they haven't been approved, in a formal way. So there's been, proclamations made and or representations made that there's support by council for the Children's Memorial flag that's to bring attention to violence against children, which we've flown for a number of years, and then most recently the Pride flag. So in terms of what this identifies is also how to fly the U.S. flag and the California flag when we might take action to fly those at half staff, but also under what circumstances we would display a commemorative flag, and then ultimately it would require council approval. So set in process a mechanism for council review, and it really would be a matter of a council member requesting it be agendized and reviewed. So pretty basic, but it's, I think, pretty clear as it's currently written. But it can, there's different ways it can be written, different models that could be pursued relative to what types of commemorative flags are flown and where. As an aside from this, we're currently we've been approached by Rotary they have a project they'd like to install a new flagpole within the city, and they'd like to have it be strong, what they call the civic presence. And their goal really is to I think promote what they say promote peace And I did meet with them last week, and we're gonna do some additional research, because ideally it's rather than a standalone flag in another location, is have it join one of our existing flag poles and be sited accordingly. We kind of came up with 3 potential locations. One was to see if we could site another flagpole adjacent to our flagpole at the police station. So right out here next to the plaza. We want to look at, how far apart and make sure they fly properly, what it would like, what would be needed to be sited there. The other city location was the library, and that was kind of the third, and from the Rotary perspective. And their second choice was Cloudster Park, and I just shared with them that Cloudster was the school property and they had to coordinate with the school. But because of their role and involvement with Cloudster, that was also kind of a good location. So we kind of identified in terms of priorities, City Hall or Civic Plaza, Cloudster Park second, and then library third. And that was kind of where we left it. We didn't look at other alternative locations. I realize that's an aside, but the thought being thinking about it, if we have 2 flagpoles, you can kind of use this draft policy as, what flags might be flown there. Obviously, the US flag, state flag, and then there's potential room for, up to 2 additional flags.
Well, this is exactly what we asked for. It matches the policies that we looked at and liked. I think it works, and it gets us on the legal side of the game and makes me feel better. So I think it's what we bring until we figure out what we're doing with the Rotary flagpole. We can amend this as needed at that point.
Gotcha. So what I hear you say, Mayor, is finalize this, bring forward a resolution adopting this policy. If we can, to the 10th, if not the 24th, we'll be okay with that.
Absolutely, just as soon as possible, because we have too much up in the air of people emailing about flags and one.
Sure.
So I want to make sure that we're covered.
Okay.
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Mayor, you want to, I don't know if you want to ask for public comment?
Does anyone have any public comments regarding this?
Looks like no one's raising their hand at this time, Mayor.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, you want to go through all the standing items?
Yeah, Mayor, happy to just run through these. Included in your report is the water rate revenue summary for fiscal year. It's really just information, and part of the goal is putting this here as a monthly meeting. And I want to make sure that the community is aware. If we have questions, it's well, where is that information? Well, it's available. It's on our website. Absolutely. And if anybody asks, here it is. Besides transparency, I think it's also helpful information, kind of track trends and see what's happening with our water rate revenue. So with that. Item 5D was update on police log. Chief, I don't know if you have anything.
We addressed that now. I think that's been handled. Covered already. For that.
And let's take it off.
Take it off.
Okay.
City clerk, just a note to let's move update on police logs from standing items. Likewise, measure key cannabis revenue report. Again, that's the direction from the subcommittees just to continue to provide the monthly reports.
I think it's worth also mentioning that you can see the huge, yeah.
It's a good thing to have it right now because of that change. I think we need to show it because I think that there will be something different again. So
Yeah, it really does highlight that.
Yeah, it does.
And so you have any even for future reports, you might make a note on the chart. That's when the tax rate changed. So if someone looks at it, the Metro Council knows, but if another member of the community, they might not be aware that.
Sure.
Council adopted a resolution reducing the excise taxes.
Okay.
Just a thought.
I will add a line and we'll move.
the numbers is crazy. That's $70,000 difference.
Yeah, we've seen significant reductions in revenue paid by cannabis. And it seems like, it's an aside, but they haven't been, and I don't think they've acknowledged that we've made a significant reduction. In fact, they're kind of continuing to say, well, now why don't you look at the annual fees? And so it's continual push to reduce fees. Even though we you know, we continue to spend time on these matters, whether it's staff and admin time responding to their questions and so forth.
Well, then that's something that we need to track. We need to show what it was meant for, what it's costing us now versus. I had the same talk with the Coastland. When I told them they need to bring new fees to us, I said, I'm a general contractor. I don't want you to raise my fees because we do too much for the $1,200. You know, it's like, no, you're losing money in our city. You have to do it right. And this is one of those things that I don't think we have it right now. So I'd like to show. Sorry, David.
Oh, no, it's okay. But that, we can do that. Let's see, moving forward, the update on pension obligation bonds. So one of the critical items that we were working on was a actuarial report and analysis from our consultant, Bartel and Associates. So they are, they required a legal analysis of ad valorem tax, which we were able to resolve. And I think they're in the final stage of completing that report. So we'll have that back. And Susie's actually preparing the ad valorem tax calculation that will come before council at your next meeting. So I'm taking a look at that. I don't know if we'll have to take a look in the current interest rate environment, whether it's still favorable to consider pension obligation bonds or not. It's when we were looking at this, interest rates were almost at the very historic bottom. It makes sense on that, right? But maybe not quite as favorable to finance those. The study we did was informative anyways, just to ensure that the ad valorem is calculated in accordance with program guidance. So that's something we'll likely continue. Okay, next item.
Yeah, you missed the vandalism of the parks.
Oh, vandalism. Okay, so we've continued to experience vandalism in the park. After we put in the locked gates or locked window coverings, someone came along and cut the locks. So I think Hector's looking at purchasing materials, looking at placing the locking mechanism on the interior. And our next step is to look at additional security measures there, including cameras. I guess there was cameras, but it wasn't placed by us. It was just I think
Yeah, I saw them.
it was
Argo or whatever those were called.
yeah, Little League, just but it wasn't very effective, unfortunately, in the most recent case of theft. But we'll continue to explore.
You don't get anything on that sheet?
Yeah, we're working that, hoping I can't like too many details, but
No, your kids and my love.
they're working on it.
So we're obviously we're particularly seems like a lot of activities at Berber Park, but we just continue to bolster our security at Snack Shack. And, hopefully with it, we do get cameras, it'll be effective. Someone does try to attempt to break in, or look at the camera.
What about like doing an actual alarm that goes off?
So we
So
originally,
makes a horrible noise and there he stares at this guy like.
yeah, we originally talked about installing one of those activated. You get close enough and it just starts spinning, but I'm not really sure we continue pursuing down that path. We're going to go securing the building as best as possible. Yeah, go from there. Probably would be a bad idea if it's continued problem down the road. Moving into that type of security measure.
Think of like a bay alarm, we have.
Yeah.
It's motion activated.
Motion
The problem
activated
is-
is things that, yeah.
Every little animal that goes in there is also gonna have to, so.
And I know it's not the, sure, this idiot, one in the burden, one will change, basically.
Some of the changes to be alongside our work.
And Mayor, that item F, that council received a full detailed presentation, which for planning on bringing that back on August 24th for further discussion. One of the topics that we discussed with the R3, obviously we want to try to do what we can to help soften any kind of rate increase that's requested for this extraordinary rate request is we receive our franchise fee, and whenever rates go up, our franchise fee revenue goes up. So there still needs to be a nexus between what we collect and time spent. So if I'm going to coordinate with Suzie and look at what our budget said in terms of collection of franchise fee, but there's a way we can actually, rather than try to have it, because customers will pay that revenue,
Right.
is soften the rate increase so that the amount that we receive in terms of franchise fees maybe goes up incrementally, but not to the extent that we planned it. By saving money, then it helps us soften the rate. Not to put the entire burden on the city,
Yeah, right.
but the
60-something% was pretty harsh.
yeah,
That's gonna cause havoc and keep it from having a police station.
yeah,
Things like that.
the increase in franchise fees was expected to be around 100,000. So, I've indicated that I think council would be willing to reduce that to help offset rates for our customers. And there is a legal requirement. We have to be careful we can't collect in this franchise fee revenue. Right. It can be challenged. More to come on that. Let's see, the Rearage program. We pretty much closed out the initial assistance that was offered by the state. I know we're doing kind of the final paperwork, but we were able to offset bills. The round amount?
Yes, so for water, it was 32,000, and for sewer, it was right around 12,000.
So, about $44,000 worth of bills were paid for from assistance with the state. But we continue to participate in another program that's, and it's basically offered directly through the state. And I think as of last week, we only had one customer, but
$30,000.
yeah, so it's beneficial from the city because we get paid, but it also offsets the customer's payments and it qualifies. So we're continuing to coordinate with these programs to try to find relief for our customers. But feel pretty good. We did all the paperwork and we saved $44,000 for our customers that were due in late payments.
Well, yeah, and especially because we're getting to the point where we're getting back into business as usual, right? And so we're gonna start charging late fees and things like that again, which we have not done for a year and a half. So we that was our way of giving back, was just, okay, well, during this time.
Now we're at a zero, had to move forward.
Yes. So it feels good that this money's going to our customers.
And Mayor, that's about it.
That's it.
Unless you have any future agenda items.
I don't yet. Anyone else? Any attendees have any future agenda items they want to mention?
No one is raising their hand at this time.
This meeting will be adjourned at 3:50. Thank you guys.
I like it so much better.
Do you?
Mhm.
How long do these meetings usually?